On behalf of our producer, Anthony Darkstone, and indeed myself, Michael Leike, welcome to our May edition, an AMI production. This edition is somewhat longer than usual because apart from our usual international news, we've incorporated a special item on the Texas Association of Magicians. We begin with news from the Magic Circle. Mark Hesketh Jennings, who is the Magic Circle's official photographer in an especially arranged ceremony, was awarded an AIMC by the Circle. As all members know, most Mondays there is a hybrid lecture of Zoom/Live at the TMC headquarters in London. Last month, a superb lecture by Pierre de Beauvoir was delivered. Apart from his original take on effects, he covered some very interesting methodology on misdirection, how and why it is used, and the more interesting aspects of flash paper. Noteworthy was not just the content of the lecture, but his ability to deliver it with elegance, pace, and timing. Kenton Knepper Lecture. Kenton lectured virtually for members of the Magic Circle. Our producer, Anthony Darkstone, was in attendance. He states, quote, "Of course we all expected a 10 out of 10 lecture. Instead, we got a true 11 out of 10. If you missed it and are a Magic Circle member, it is on the TMC site. If you're a TMC member or not, many gems that he shared can be found at the link below." Edward Hilsum is a Triple Crown Magic champion and represented the Magic Circle at the last FISM. He has for many years also devoted time to Breathe Magic. This month on May 21st, he is running in the Hackney Half Marathon to raise money for Breathe Arts Health Research. Breathe is a small charity that delivers innovative, award-winning programs that improve the physical and mental health of NHS, the health system in the UK, staff, patients, and communities. He has been a part of the Breathe Magic program since 2015. The Magic Camps help young people with hemiplegia, a weakness or paralysis affecting one side of the body as a result of brain injury or stroke, as they learn, practice, and perform magic created by occupational therapists and Magic Circle magicians. Seeing these young magicians' physical improvement and boosted confidence over the course of the program is a joy, and their beaming smiles after their final theater performance is a powerful reminder of the true power that magic can have. We respectfully suggest that you consider making a donation. It could help someone heal. Go to the link below. Radek Hoffman is a fine magician of the mind. Originally from Poland, he now resides in England and has been wowing audiences and indeed many top names in magic too, with his highly original and entertaining one-man shows in London. Last month, at the Barons Court Theatre, his show entitled The Moment gained him much praise and acclaim. He's scheduled to be a guest soon on the Darkstone Dossiers. AMS. In early March, the newly founded Amsterdam Magic Society presented itself to the public in general and to its potential membership in particular at the Old Mysterium venue of Messini. The venue, named after the late Pier Massini, a famous Dutch actor, has now replaced the Casablanca name above the entrance on the Zeejic in Amsterdam. The Bar Restaurant Theatre will continue the Casablanca tradition, providing a large spectrum of variety. The main program of the evening consisted of a live magic show in the small theatre on the first floor, delivered by its officers, with Zippo Guo as a guest performer. Seen here from left to right, Fritz with a Z, President, Woody Wood, Treasurer, Rico Wieland, and Frans de Groot, aka Mervyn, Secretary. On the 15th and 16th of April, the fourth edition of the International Magic Festival was held in Narbonne, France. A wonderful setting for an outstanding convention. The convention was an endeavor started by Xavier Durand and made a comeback after an absence of 4 years. The level of attendance after 2 days was high, and the festival was a success. As expected, the lectures and galas were superb. Joseph B., Miguel Angel Gia, Ali Noura, Zach, Jordan Victoria, DJ Letta, Fred Bellucci, JJ Journeau, Cesar Chalret, Beatrice Caccini, and Arthur Tivoli, our AMI president, were an integral part of an impressive list of performers, lecturers, and organizers. A well-attended dealer's room was also part of the convention. A beautiful setting for quality magic, a dealer room with beautiful things, and above all, 5 fantastic lectures done by Arthur T., Ali Noura, Joseph P., Jordan Victoria, Zach, Miguel Angel Gia. On the Sunday, the end of the magic weekend, a gala took place with Fred Bellucci, Doc 3J, Arthur Tivoli, Zach, and DJ Letta, with Ali Noura as MC. Apart from the magic, people are still raving about Fritz Paella and Nath's quiches and pizza. News from La Maison de la Magie Robert Houdin in France. Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin is back. Since the House of Magic opened 25 years ago, its statue proudly welcomed visitors. Its damaged base has now been completely restored by the company Lefebvre Centre-Ouest, and it is now back in its rightful place. The Académie du Cercle Magique Paris had the pleasure of announcing the winner of the 2023 Trophy of Creativity at the excellent Festival of Hertier de Illusion through its president, Gaëtan Bloom. In the 7th round of voting, the members of the Academy unanimously nominated Jean-Fred Durati. The trophy will be officially presented to him in June, during an evening at the Musée de la Magie, in the presence of CMP members and friends. As you may have noticed in our April edition, we added a feature entitled Magician of the Month. This month, it is FISM Judge and Master Magician from the Netherlands, Sylvia Scheuer. Producer's pick. Quote, "Too often as magicians, we don't know why we, the character we are performing, do anything. The trick requires it, so we do it. But in fact, we are performing a story as a character, and that character needs a reason for doing everything they do. Otherwise, the audience sees through the performance, and it's just another trick. Subtext is everything," unquote. Tobias Beckwith. Alexander May co-hosts a TV program in South Africa. The guests are mostly young people from the College of Magic. The aim is to give them a platform to showcase their talents. The show is entitled Impossible and has a new episode every Wednesday afternoon.
Hi there, Alexander May here. You probably know me from all the sponge magic that I make and that you see on magic websites all around the world. But today I'm here to address a very vicious rumor that I've heard. I definitely did not kill SpongeBob SquarePants to make my sponge donuts. That is a lie, and I do not know where that comes from. Sorry. Anyway, nowadays I'm too busy at the gym anyway to do things like that. Just give me a second. What?
Last month saw two events over the weekend of the 15th and 16th of April. Nathan Earle guested on the Darkstone dossiers on Saturday and certainly shared some useful thoughts and ideas that showed why he ranks among the upper echelons of street magic and how he applies those skills to his corporate events. Michael Kelly, now sporting a splendid beard, is well versed in matters of an esoteric nature. He had an event entitled The Psychic Detective on the Sunday. More in the nature of a murder mystery playlet, he intrigued attendees with interesting magic involving criminals and had the audience play sleuths and crime solvers. Carol Massey Given and Joe Given are wonderful magicians in their own right. They own the Theater of Dreams in Castle Rock, Colorado. Quite a few names of note have been featured in magic shows there. On the 19th and 20th of May, David Parr of Penn and Teller fame, among other accomplishments, will be headlining two shows. Full details at the link below. This month, Tommy Burnett is heading from New York to the UK again. He has a busy schedule of magical happenings. Lecturing at the Magic Circle in London on the 2nd of May, filming some upcoming projects in the studio of Alakazam Magic in Ashford, Kent, and then off to Derby for a bizarre magic convention called Doomsday. Dr. Michael Magic Mike Likey here about my brand new book. It's bizarre. Arcadio and Solange have been wowing audiences for some time, and recently, at an event in Italy, entered the Guinness Book of World Records for the greatest number of quick changes in just 1 minute.
Okay. Solange, Arcadio, are you ready?
Yes.
In 3, 2, 1, go!
For the full clip, go to the link below. This is the logo symbol of the British Magical Society. It was designed and devised by Neville Maskelyne and is explained to members at the magic initiation ceremony. The equilateral triangle denoted the alchemical element air, which, of its invisible nature, is characteristic of the unseen forces closely associated with magic. When the triangle rests on one of its sides, as it does in the BMS emblem, it suggests stability and strength. The inner symbol within the triangle is a symbolic representation of the caduceus, or herald's wand, carried by Mercury as messenger of the gods. The caduceus is better known in the form of a winged rod with a pair of serpents entwined. In 1905, Mr. F.E. Walker invited a few magically minded friends to his home in Birmingham, and the British Magical Society was born. The society is generally considered to be one of the oldest of its kind in the world. For 50 years, Freddie Walker held the position of secretary, steering the society through 2 world wars. From the beginning, the society was associated with many famous names, and David Devant was its first president and held the office for 3 years. Incidentally, he was also the first president of the Magic Circle. John Neville Maskelyne designed the society emblem and gave considerable help in forming the rules. Maskelyne was also the first editor of the Magic Circular and also served as president of the Magic Circle from 1906 until his death in 1924. Many prominent names made up the membership of the British Magical Society. An illustrious list includes Carl Hertz, Surveyor Leroy, David Nixon, Robert Harbin, Paul Daniels, Ken Dodd, Wayne Dobson, past president of the Magic Circle David Berglass, John Fisher, Geoffrey Buckingham, Leslie Levant, Peter Warlock, John Ramsey, Roy Johnson, Derek Lever. There were and still are strong links between BMS and the Magic Circle. In late March of this year, Jim McLean, who was the editor of the Society's newsletter, was sworn in as president. The previous editor was Donald Bevan of Abra fame. Jim is well-traveled and has performed in many places, including South Africa, India, etc., and recalls with joy many wonderful stories of his adventures. One incident worth mentioning was in the UK, when he used to perform at hospitals in Eastbourne and Southport. To quote, "I hit the hardest performance of my life. I was performing in the spinal unit. Not only was it emotionally hard, but I couldn't ask for any assistance as the patients were all paralyzed. I left one bed and the nurse told me he really enjoyed that. I asked how she knew, and she told me she saw it in his eyes. I left the ward in tears," unquote. Our congratulations to Jim. The AMI and BMS have much in common, and we look forward to much future collaborations between both our clubs. On the topic of magic organizations, Magic Circle Scotland, Scotland's newest magical society, launched itself as a predominantly teaching magical society last year. To mark its first anniversary, it has arranged a full 2-day event with one of the world's foremost commercial magicians, Bill Malone. Best known for his card, close-up, corporate events magic, and his highly energetic comedic style, Bill has worked for over 45 years in magic and has built a client base, including several Fortune 500 companies, not to mention his magic comedy club, Houdini's Pub, and the Malone's Magic Bar in Florida, USA. For the first time ever in Glasgow, Scotland, on the 10th to the 11th of June 2023, Bill is going to reveal this professional development course where he will teach his special system and show it working in real-time situations. Given the nature of this course, numbers are limited. This is not a lecture, but a full 2-day course designed from the ground up. Full details at the link below. Sad to report the passing of Harry Lorraine. He was born on the 4th of May, 1926, and was an American magician and a memory training specialist and writer who was called, quote, the Yoda of memory training, unquote, and, quote, the world's foremost memory training specialist, unquote, by Time magazine. Well known for his incredible memory demonstrations, he appeared on numerous television shows, including 24 times on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. His book, entitled The Memory Book, was on the New York Times bestseller list. His card magic, especially his innovations in card sleights, is considered to be some of the greatest card magic and widely emulated by amateur and professional magicians. Respect. R.I.P. Also sad to report the sudden passing of well-known Canadian magician Paul Kilshaw. He was an officer of the IBM ring in BC, the Ernie Crockford ring, seen here with Prince William and family. Paul was well known to our producer Anthony Darkstone. He will be greatly missed by all those who knew him. To quote Sean Farquhar, quote, Paul was without a doubt one of the most giving and caring humans I've ever known. He volunteered to help anyone at any time. He was a keen military man, skilled magician, balloon artist, and most of all, friend to anyone who needed a real friend, unquote. The IBM is having its annual convention in a few months, and well worth checking out at the link below. On the topic of conventions, coming up this September in Houston, Texas, is the annual TAOM convention. Our producer, Anthony Darkstone, has attended many of those and has fond memories of all of them, especially the 2008 convention, where he was invited to host and produce a live talk show to celebrate Walter Zany Blaney's 80th birthday. Scott Wells, Trixie Bond, Marco M., Bill Merlin Palmer, this year's TAOM honoree, Francis Willard and Glenn Falkenstein, including Walter's 3 daughters, were invited to pay homage to Walter on the show. During the show, both Anthony and Walter were presented with SAM presidential citations by then SAM president, the late Maria Ibanez. The presentations were made on her behalf by the late Chuck Lair. Seen here are a few stills from the show. Credit also to PJ Campagna and Gene Protis for all the behind-the-scenes assistance. A book could be written about that, in ensuring our producer got to Fort Worth in good time. A nostalgic shot taken at late Sherry Kay's home featuring Sherry, Anthony Darkstone, Scott Wells seated, and Harry and Caroline Moorer. Given his fondness for the TAOM, our producer took on the role of reporter and together with the obligatory martinis, got together with Scott Wells to deliver this report.
Greetings. Yes, I'm sitting here with a Vesper, and for good reason. As producer, I don't often get involved in actually playing reporter, but this is a long time, dear friend, and the subject matter is entirely important, as you've heard in the introduction. So between him being famous for this, ubiquitous, and I managed to actually grab him, and we sat down with our martinis, and who better than one of the presidents of the Texas Association of Magicians, that was way back in 2000, when both he and I were just 10 years old at the time. We've grown on a little bit since then. Most of you watching this will already know the name, so I'm just going to bring my Vesper, and I'm sure he's going to grab his. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Scott Wells.
Oh, hello there, Anthony.
Hello,
Hey,
Scott.
so good to see you, my friend. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you. Now, you and I always joke about this. You are, of course, the master of martinis, among other things. And one of the jokes we've always had is that I prefer Vesper with little yellow bits, lemons, and you prefer yours with olives.
With blue cheese olives, preferably, yes.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Blue cheese stuffed olives.
Yeah, and you and I agree on so much, and we're brothers from a different mother, but I've always said the only place olives or blue cheese olives belong is in a salad. But hey, you know, nobody agrees on everything. So hence my Vesper. Cheers to you, Scott, and thanks for showing up. Thanks for showing up.
And to you, Anthony. Thanks for having me as your guest again. It's good to catch up with you across all these miles and these years.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely. Well, Houston, as you know, was my old stomping ground, and you and I have spent glorious times together there. One in particular was when you were president of the TAOM back in 2000. You were very kind enough to invite me and my son over, and we had a, wow, what can I say? Pick a superlative time. One in particular was at Planet Hollywood with Simon Lovell, and you very kindly took my son and I to lunch. And there was my son, I think, barely 21.
Mm-hmm.
And he nudges me in the ribs and goes, "Dad, did you see who just walked through the door?" And I went, "Yeah." And I kind of went, myself. And you had shown up. You had picked us up before and taken us there. And then you went and said, "I've got to collect a couple other people." And these couple of other people were dear Mark Wilson, blessings for his memory, and of course, Nanny. And of course, you can imagine this young 20-year-old just kind of gaga having lunch with this, thanks to you. And of course, you know, his dad was suitably kind of gaga as well. So it was a lot of fun, and that we had a great time. I mean,
that was a fun promotion that we had done at that time. Mark Wilson, my thought was, as the president that year, I wanted to have something that was going to be a father and child type of reunion, like the song "Father and Son Reunion."
Yes, sir.
And it was a mother and child reunion. Anyhow, so I had Mark Wilson and Gregory Wilson, and I had Chuck Jones along with Stacy Jones as the Majestics with her husband at the time, and then Walter Blaney and Becky Blaney.
Right.
So, kind of that kind of generation. And also my idea was to, a lot of times at the evening shows, what happens is you only have one time to rehearse, and then they have another show the next night. So my thought is, why not do the same show 2 nights in a row, but we just switch places?
Right.
Not that foreign or sense, but we had 2 different theaters where we could do that. But the second show, in both cases, obviously was a little bit stronger because it was tighter, and they'd already worked together and they knew the flow and everything like that then as well. But also, that was the last time, Anthony, when we actually had over 1,000 attendees for TAOM. As with most conventions, the average age of the registrant is going up and the number of attendees is going down. There is a correlation there, of course.
Yes.
But right now, we probably expect, well, it used to be that the Texas Association of Magicians would host, again, the largest group of attendees, even rivaling and beating the IBM and SAM conventions, their national conventions. We were the largest. We were the biggest until Magic Live came in, and of course Magi Fest is another one. So those are a couple of right now that are really big conventions. TAOM still boasts of having some of the best conventions, some of the best entertainers we have as talents and lecturers, performers. And this year we're going to be having in Houston, Texas.
Well, I'm going to get to that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not being rude, but as Michael Likey, our presenter, has said in the opening before we're running this clip, I'm playing reporter. So the other one that absolutely, and I think, he's already mentioned it earlier on in introducing this clip, was, of course, 2008. And for me, personally, that was my best. Nothing wrong with 2000. I loved it, but that was my best. Why? Because I was so honored and privileged that folks got talking, and then Walter insisted that I fly over and do the live talk show on him. And I couldn't believe it. And I said, "Well, you got so much talent out there. Why you guys want me?" And they said, "No," Walter said. And I went, "Oh, okay." So that was great, me doing that talk show with him. And I think we probably run a couple of clips beforehand just to,
That was great. You did a great job with him.
Well, thank you. And you helped. I mean, you were there. Trixie Bond, Bill Merlin Palmer, who is the honoree this year, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And of course, Francis Willard and dear Glenn Elkenstein, who sadly is no longer with us either. And we floated, Walter floated Francis at the end.
That's right.
And Walter and I always had this thing. I said, "No, it's a suspension." He went, "No, it's a levitation. It's mine. I invented it. It's a levitation." Right. So, it's good-natured banter. Sometimes sadly missing nowadays, unless, of course, it's a couple of good old boys like you and I, and we have fun with it. Now, what I'm going to do, having reminisced and probably saying the same things that our presenter Michael has already done. I want to turn the floor over to you and ask you to talk a little bit about what's happening this year. I've mentioned Bill, who's a dear friend of both of ours for many years, is the honoree. And so if you'd be kind enough, in fact, to tell a lot of our viewers what is happening and why they should be in Houston. Oh, before you do, let's quickly say, in case people have missed it, this has been held since 1947, and the TAOM having been founded in 46, and in different cities each year. And it's now come kind of full circle almost and back into Houston again. In your time, I know very well it was Dallas in 2000. So floor is yours. Be kind enough, in fact, to give us everything you possibly can. And when you're finished, we'll also run a wonderful clip that has Jeff McBride, Gay Blackstone, Lance Burton, etc., extolling the virtues of TAOM. But right now, dear Scott, I'd like to turn it over to you, Scotty.
Well, thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate that, having the opportunity to talk about the Texas Association of Magicians. It is very near and dear to my heart. I get to a lot of conventions throughout the year, and and I like to give daily reports for my podcast, the Magic Word Podcast. And so with that, I implore you to go and to listen to those daily reports from conventions. I'll be reporting again from Houston, and the convention will be held September the 1st through the 4th, which is always over what in the U.S. we celebrate as Labor Day weekend. And it is a time when magicians get together. We're expecting, again, another large group of people. This year, we're going to be hosting it in a different place. Typically, we have held it downtown, but we have found that because it is a holiday weekend, there are a lot of places that are closed. So there are not many restaurants, and it's just kind of a barren place, I guess, basically downtown. So this year we're hosting it at a different hotel, which is going to be in the Galleria area, which is a little bit outside on the perimeter of.
I know it well, and some of the eateries there. And you and I are famous for, shall we say, enjoying culinary delights. Let's put it like that.
Exactly, my friend. Exactly. And there is no end to that, of whether that you want to have fast food to 5 stars. It's got everything right there in the gallery area within pretty easy walking distance. And they've negotiated a very good rate with the hotel this year as well. And also we're going to be having then free Wi-Fi, plus you will have a $10 per night parking charge, which has been negotiated down, and you get free breakfast, so you don't have to worry about going out and trying to find someplace.
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to interrupt you. Just get this right. You can park your car overnight for just $10.
Yeah, I think that's
wow.
Thing. Yeah, thanks
incredible.
For stopping to pause to reflect on that.
Yeah,
for just a minute.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm sorry. Carry on. I just wanted our viewers to know that. Oh, and I will mention, I've been in and out of George Bush Continental more times than most people have had Haas breakfast. And that is an amazing airport. And if you're flying in from someplace else outside of the U.S., that's the one to aim for. And it's a great airport. I think you'll agree.
Good point. There are a couple of airports, major international airports in the Houston area. The George Bush International Airport is located north of town. The one which is south of town is Hobby. If you're flying in by Southwest, that's probably the preferred one.
Yeah, that's more the domestic one, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct. And it is within, depending upon the time of day, probably about a 30-minute drive to the Galleria. And I would say that you're looking maybe about 45 minutes coming down from Intercontinental Airport if you're going to be flying in internationally. We're also offering something that's a little bit interesting this year that I don't know has been done necessarily in the past. And we have 2 different types of registration. One is a full registration. The other one is limited. And to differentiate between the two, the full registration is as implies. You get access to everything. With a limited registration, you do not get access to the lectures. So you get to go to the shows, you go to the dealer's room and wherever else. But with the limited registration, that's really intended for the spouses and children, perhaps, who are not interested in magic, but would like to attend everything else. So that is a reduced price for that type of limited registration we have as opposed to the full registration. So that's a little bit different than we're doing this year too. Another thing is we have been asked from time to time about whether we're going to be having daily registrations available, if people can just kind of come in for the day and go to the dealer's room or whatever. At this point, the answer is no, but I would suggest if, again, you go to the website, that you will then look at the FAQ page and there'll be something that will be answering that there.
Okay.
And as we get closer, we'll see how close we are to being at full registration. And if we have any room left, then we will look at having daily registrations. Over the past few years, when we have had the pandemic and the lockdown, we have had Zoom shows, Zoom conventions, even, if you will. This year, there has been some components in which we have had both live and online that you can attend. There is nothing like that that's planned for this year. This is just going to be an in-person only. Our thought is that COVID's behind us, and let's move forward. And with Thanksgiving and with fellowship, and to enjoy the time we have and the fellowship personally while we're together. So we do not plan really at this time to have any kind of an online Zoom or streaming type of complement to the live convention. The stars are aligning, and I mean that quite literally. When I say the stars, I mean from all the talent that we've got. Even for an example, that Steve Valentine is going to be one of the people who are performing there. Now, let me also say he is under contract, but I mean, quite literally up to the last minute. I mean, if Robert Zemeckis calls him and says, "Hey, I need you for a movie," he's going to be out.
Right.
He's had dozens of movies and television scripts and things like that, and it's kind of hard, obviously, for him to say no, because it's his first job is as an actor. But he is tremendous performer and lecturer, and you don't get to see him in a lot of conventions necessarily because of the conflicts. So be sure to come. You want to see him.
Sorry to interrupt, but speaking of people, I mean, we mentioned dear Bill Palmer, Merlin Palmer is the honoree, and my goodness, we could be here for the next 14 years talking about him. But we've also have another very wonderful mutual pal, Harry Maurer. My understanding is going to be there.
That's correct. Bill Palmer will be the guest of honor this year. Each year, the TAOM has honored. It's been a tradition to honor someone who has been instrumental in helping or being a magician within Texas, who has some notoriety of a variety of reasons. And in the past, we have honored people like Frank Price, or locally Doug Cornegie, many people, different places. You had mentioned also, Anthony, about how the TAOM moves around the state, and that's true. Is we rotate in no particular order. It's kind of like whichever city will bid on it from year to year, whether it goes from Dallas to Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. Those seem to be the 5 areas that still continue to host the convention. In previous years, it's been in Tyler and Lubbock, as well as Corpus Christi. So it's going to continue that way as well. Carrying on, I was going to say, as far as some of the other talent, another one, you'd mentioned Harry Maurer, of course, who is someone who is a great performer, local performer, does a lot of cruise ships. He also had been nominated for the Atlantic City Entertainer of the Year. Mario the Magician, Mario the Maker, is going to be there. So he is someone who David Blaine has used to open his show, and which I thought was kind of a strange kind of a thing, because they're two different people, because Mario is so animated and also a children's entertainer, but it's not just children. I mean, the adults love him as well. Highly recommend it.
Right.
Just even to see and learn from him. Chad Long, who Chad as being just a tremendous thinker, funny guy, not just close up, but stand up and stage. And a past international president and funny man, Michael Finney. Michael Finney's going to be there.
I've heard of this guy. Well, some folks will remember back in the day, I was invited also to do one of my talk shows at the IBM British Ring 25 in England when John Pye was, he's also gone now, sadly, was president. And Michael Finney, Sean Farquhar, and Joe M. Turner, plus Jason Andrews, were on my show as guests. It was live.
Yeah.
And there's a guy going around, if you want to become president of the IBM, get on Anthony's show.
So when are you going to be having me on, you said?
Well, right, exactly. Well, no, that was a live talk. Well, speaking of that, yes, I've been chasing you around since Noah built the ark, and I am determined to anchor you down to guest on the Darkstone dossiers. You have guested, in fairness to you, on other things that I've done. One where you actually taught people how to make martinis.
Oh, that's right.
Quite a good one. And then you had a couple other things as well. But having said all of that, yes, you will come on the Darkstone dossiers. Yes,
I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, good. Because I know people with violent cases in Houston. If you don't,
I have riots in the streets. One of the person, a few other I wanted to mention, by the way, we've got just a ton of great people as a roster. Closing the Sunday night show is going to be Rob Lake. Some of you may not know Rob Lake. In my opinion, I don't know why he's not the future David Copperfield. I've always thought this guy just has it all going for him. He is a full illusion show, tours around the world, does a lot of things for military families personally, and traveling about, as well as you perhaps have seen him on Masters of Illusion. He's been on America's Got Talent, several other things. I'm really excited about having Rob Lake here and introducing him in a way to the community who may not know Rob, because he never performs at magic conventions. So I believe this may be his first magic convention.
oh wow,
Who has been around for a while is Brent Braun, who is someone who has been a consultant for a lot of magicians on shows like for Penn and Teller and others. Christopher Carter is one of the top college entertainers right now out of Chicago, and has just a lot of really interesting ideas. I remember seeing him lecture at Magic Live, I believe it was last year, and he is a mind reader, mentalist. I've been a longtime friend. I've seen his one-man show a couple times in Chicago, has been just really great. Aside from that, as you said, we're going to be having Harry Maurer. I'm going to be there reporting. We're also, I forgot Doug Kahn, by the way, too. Doug performing at a few conventions, and so he's coming over from New Orleans, and he's going to be performing.
Well, don't worry too much about forgetting or leaving someone out. I mean, it happens, you know.
Yeah.
Because what we'll do, and I'm sure you want to say it, it's fairly easy to remember, www.taom.org. Anybody
/2023.
/2023. Yeah, I mean, they can find it. They can find it from there on in. And the main TAOM.org has got some very interesting things there about the history and the background. Right. So if anyone thinks this is just, hey, you know, another convention with a bunch of guys, you know, wearing hats and going, yeehaw, no, that's in the movies in Texas. Okay, there's a lot of very erudite, very sophisticated people in Texas, and you know, there's a lot of fun to be had. And in my opinion, and I guess it's worth a little bit. I've seen a lot of magic and different people all over the world, and some of the best magic ever has been in Texas. Names you've mentioned, you know, like Frank Price, Scott Hollingsworth, who used to be the entertainment director at Magic Island, and you know, Fred Donaldson, you know, people like Marco M. How can you talk about Texas?
Markham, right?
Yeah, he was a great dear friend and a mentor to me.
You know, Charles Green, many years ago, of course.
Houston. A lot of
Charles Green III.
Yeah, a lot of.
He's written the new book Ionia, which I highly recommend. He's been on a worldwide tour talking about that book, which is good.
Oh well, I must find out.
H&R Magic books, of course. Dick Hatch and
H&R. Yep, and well, you were kind enough to organize for my son and I to lecture there back in the day when H&R were run by Dick Hatch and Charlie Randall. Right. So that was a lot of fun. It stayed in our memory because the air conditioning had gone. And you know the old building,
upstairs,
yeah, okay. We could have cooked 3 chickens. Seriously, it was that warm.
It was a little warm. I do remember that.
But hey, you know, it's all part of the fun stories of life, as they say. Well, Scott, I'll tell you what. We're going to have to wrap this up fairly quickly because you know we've got some other things, particularly a clip that you very kindly put together, which we want to add after our little conversation. I want to thank you for making the time to come on and tell us a little bit about the TAOM for the Magic News Network. And I know you're often about doing some things this Easter weekend, and there's a rumor going around that you might even take a day off.
That is a rumor. Sometimes those things are unsubstantiated.
Yeah, but there we are. Yeah, there we are. Well, I happen to know what you're going to be doing later today, but we won't talk about that. Yeah, that's the best time of your life later today, because you told me. Yeah, I know. Yeah, great. Scott, thank you. What can I say? Greatly appreciated. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Cheers. Thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate being a part of this. I think you're doing a great job over here with this news network, Magic News Network. And Michael Leike is just a wonderful host, and the
isn't he just
people around the world are great.
Yeah, he's just wonderful. Okay, yep. Scott, thank you so much. Cheers.
Scotty out.
As many know, among his many talents and skills, Scott Wells has been producing the Magic Word podcast for some years and has had many major celebrities from the world of magic, TV, and movies as featured guests. Naturally, he will be doing so whilst at the TAOM. We are delighted to share a brief tribute by a few names you will know.
Hi, this is Lance Burton, Master Magician. I love Scott Wells' Magic Word podcast. I listen to it every week, and you should too.
Boy, I'll tell you that Scott Wells is the best Magic Word podcast. And I don't know how many times I've been on there, but I recommend it. It's the only podcast I listen to. It's the most informative on magic and who's who in magic today. Keep up the good work, Scott.
I highly recommend the Magic Word podcast. Scott's the best on the internet.
I love listening to the Magic Word podcast because it's just like listening to a friend, having conversations with the people that are making a difference in the world of magic. In a big way for me, Scott Wells is the voice of magic.
Hello, this is Scott Wells. I am the host of the Magic Word podcast. Since 2011, I've been broadcasting conversations with conjurers all over the world. Each Thursday, I release in-depth chats with guests, including many of the greats you know, and many whom you don't yet know, and still others who are not yet great. Some of those in the archives have passed away, but there are many who are still creating and performing today. We often talk about marketing, theory, developing an act and a character, theaters, and more. The topics are as broad and deep as our community is diverse and rich with experience. We cover all forms and interests in magic, whether it's close-up, stand-up, stage, mentalism, birthday parties, collecting, building, magic history, seances, television, bizarre magic, or whatever. We also talk with experts in their fields in every type of venue, from church basements and fraternal organization luncheons to Las Vegas stages, trade shows, and cruise ships. As I attend magic conventions, I take you along with me as we provide daily reports from the convention floor with organizers, the talent, registrants, and the dealers. You get the real sense that you're actually there in the moment. You can listen to each episode wherever you get your podcasts, but for more content with videos, links, the occasional contest entry forms, photos, and more, please visit our website at themagicwordpodcast.com. Hear what magicians are talking about and join the rest of the magic world who have already discovered the Magic Word podcast and enjoy an audible experience of all the colorful textures that make up our rich tapestry that we call magic. Scotty out.
Folks, Magic Podcast.
The Magic Word podcast.
The Magic Word podcast, because I listen to it so much, I forget the name.
On behalf of Anthony Darkstone, our producer, and myself, Michael Leike, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to welcoming you again next month with much more interesting news from magic around the world. Please feel free to share this clip with your colleagues and clubs. If you're not already a member, ask to join our Facebook Magic News Network. The group link is below.